I thought Garrison was gonna be player housing, chat. I'm not gonna lie, I was super excited for that. I wanted to make my own big mansion and invite all my friends there. I thought it was gonna be awesome, but it sucked so hard. And their boat system sucked so hard too. I thought we can actually ride the boat, go into the seas and have battles. But no, you fucking send people on a mission on your boat. So lame, dude. So lame, dude.
And with missing a full raid tier,
I still have
while
fun
also
in
having one of the
BK
longest
though.
content droughts at the end of the expansion, it definitely deserves some of its infamy. Another thing people probably forget about Warlords of Draenor is that it was the expansion which pruned a lot of the old WoW. Warlords of Draenor was when a
I like the WOD's BG though. You had BG gear and arena gear. And it was pretty awesome that way.
ton of classes lost abilities. It's also when socket bonuses were just straight up removed from the game, and instead it was added as a tertiary stat. Warforging became more common before they added Titan Forging, and they removed a lot of power from professions and enchants. No longer could you enchant half your gear.
Dude, my
They
character
instead
needs
restricted it
mana
to just a
so
handful
bad.
of slots. All the professions stopped providing little bonuses to incentivize you being able to pick whatever you wanted, and with the removal of socket bonuses and less enchanting slots, jewel crafting and enchanting were no longer the biggest moneymakers. Warlords of Draenor completely gutted customizations of characters, and it's also when they removed reforging from the game. So they went really hard on not wanting people to mess with their gear that they got from dungeons or raids at all, as they had a philosophy that they wanted you to be able to equip a piece of gear that you just got without having to sim it, or add a whole bunch of extra stuff to it later, like gems, enchants, or profession-specific things, like a tinkering from an engineer, for example. Which is funny because that never actually stopped. And in fact, simming has gotten even more advanced since Mists of Pandaria. But they went a little bit too hard at removing everything and people were dropping the game left and right. So they did something drastic for Legion, really taking a playbook out of Mists of Pandaria's playbook of just going bombastic with everything. In Legion, they just straight up completely redesigned some specs and classes. The Discipline Priest was changed into a completely unique style of healer. Combat Rogues were removed from the game and replaced with the
Oh, dude, I hated Legion changed for red. They changed red in a miserable way. This is when we started becoming a wheelchair chat. This is like the brand of when we became wheelchair. In WoD, we had seal twisting that made us run faster. Every time we judged someone, we ran 45% faster. And we could spam cleanse roots. Oh my god, it was amazing. But then they remove all of them and give us a fucking horse. I hated it. Actually, you know what? Horse was a talent. We had no mobility at all. Horse was a talent. I made a video complaining about how Reds have no mobility and they give us a one horse baseline. Yep, I did that, chat.
Outlaw Rogue, Survival Hunters were converted into a melee spec, removing the Explosive Shot Hunter from the game, and I'm sure there's many more, but those are the biggest drastic changes I can remember. In addition, they added the first ever infinite power progression. Before Legion, it was technically possible to hit a point where you couldn't really increase the power level of your character anymore. You could get the best gear in the
Where is
game,
our
and then you
team,
were just
dude?
kind of done, until the next round of expansion content came out. One of the reasons RPG mobile games can be so addicting is because a lot of them don't have power ceilings. I remember one of the browser-based games I used to play, there literally wasn't a max level. But you were restricted in how much you could farm each day due to a stamina bar. So the highest level character was whoever could pay the most money to reset that stamina bar, and it was basically just a whale-off on who could spend the most amount of money. But there is a certain appeal in always being able to progress the power level of your character, or your character in just certain ways, that don't always have to be massive jumps, like maybe getting a huge upgrade from a raid drop. So the artifact weapons were kind of this. The artifact weapons did
What
have a
was that
cap,
game?
but it was so
Looks
hard to
like
reach that it was
crap.
almost an infinite power climb. It also provided a lot of really strong bonuses to your class, which we'll go over a little bit later, and they also had a lot of really cool lore things, which really resonated with people. But the biggest gameplay feature of them was the fact that it added a new thing you could farm in-game. In a normal RPG, you're done leveling once you hit max level, so the artifact weapon system essentially added more levels to grind, just replacing the word experience points with artifact power. And someone with a stronger artifact weapon was just stronger than someone else who had a lower level artifact weapon. And while artifact power wasn't very well liked, it does kind of lead into why Legion was so incredibly well liked. And the reasons are pretty simple, and almost directly related to the artifact weapon. Legion is when they released the shackles on players' power.
I think Legion was fun because we had artifact power. Yes, it was borrowed power, but there was only one tree line. I'll get to the other point, but as a red, I had like Divine Storm Tornado send out. It broke me out of stuns. My Ashbringer gave me power, etc. Right? It was just one weapon, and you get to fill all the weapons in the end, right? The problem about retail right now, there's 4 Covenant, and you have to choose from one each. And sometimes this gets buffed, this gets nerfed, this one changes, this one that, bad. And you can't even swap Covenants, right? You have to do the whole quest again to swap again. I think they made it easier now, but people hate swapping Covenants. In Legion, it was just one weapon, and you just have to fill that, and that's it, right? And in BFA, it was Corruption and Neck, but the pieces from like the helm, shoulder, chest, those are like RNG. It's not like the Legion's talent tree where you get to have everything. In BFA, you have to choose from your shoulder, your chest, your helm, the corruption power. Too much. I didn't like it at all.
And also, when they released the shackles on lore, Warlords of Draenor was the training arc, where you have a whole bunch of weighted clothing and had to lift weights for 2 whole years.
Jesus Christ.
And Legion was the moment where Rock Lee drops his weights. Adding too much power to gear with gems, enchants, and profession bonuses? How about we add incredibly overpowered legendary effects to equipment? Being too conservative with lore, to the point where you have to go back in time just to experience past events? How about we just bring everyone in the past to the forefront, all at once? The Death Knight campaign directly...
You know what they needed to just make a WoW 2, man. We need a WoW 2 chat. WoW 2, new engine, new combat, more skill shots. Make it more fun. And I think they need to make it where people can't one-shot, like literally just one-shot. And please don't make it where people can literally top off someone in one heal. I hate that about WoW, dude. You do all this crazy CC setup, you almost get the kill, he gets out of CC, and literally 1 second, boom, full health. That's retail right there, baby. For 2 minutes, you're not gonna kill anything again. Fucking sucks, dude. Make it where all CCs are cut in half, make the DPS less, make the healing less. I think that'll be way more fun, man.
Contributed to Shadowlands' entire plot. One of the first random followers you get in the Priest Order Hall is now looking to be the new leader of the Forsaken. The dagger that Shadow Priests use was a major plot point in BFA. One of the artifact weapons just straight up
Yeah, less CC meaning like make Hodge maybe 3 second, make Kidney Shot like 3 second, make Blind like 4 second, like cut every CC in half, dude. Who wants to sit in CC all day? What game makes you sit in CC for a minute, chat? Only in World of Warcraft, dude. I don't like that. But the reason why we have a lot of CC is because healers can top off someone in 1 second. But then the reason why healers could top off someone in 1 second is because someone could kill someone in 1 second. So they just need to make it... I don't know, it's just so demotivated. They make mana matter too. Like, I want mana to be relevant again. In retail. Mana is so irrelevant, man. Like, the game doesn't have an end to it. I just don't like it, man. In tournaments, it's all about milking. They use like legendary Legos, all living Legos, or trinkets, BM. And then they just live forever and try to cap on one guy's mistake because nothing can die.
Destroyed a planet. Another one was a fan favorite rumor for years and was used in all of the promotional materials as one of the weapons you'd be able to wield. And they were powerful too. I made a video on some of the hardest hitting abilities in WoW's history, and a couple of them were just straight up artifact weapon abilities. That's not even mentioning the legendaries. You had stuff like the Mantle, the Master Assassin, which could just straight up give you a 100% crit chance for 6 seconds. Legendaries that gave you extra talents, allowing you to spam use abilities that have cooldowns, or just adding extra buttons or charges to spells and abilities you already had, changing rotation completely. And some of the artifact abilities themselves were so good, they were added to the base class after the expansion. In addition to the lore for the weapons and campaigns just being packed full of major, important past characters, we got to go fight the biggest bad guys in the Warcraft universe itself on their home turf, thanks to the help of the Titans, who are some of the biggest, most important good guys we've constantly been hearing about throughout the history of Warcraft lore. You can't really have something that goes more over the top than that. Super powerful weapons, crazy impactful
fairly now. Why,
legendaries,
yes.
lore that was completely over the top.
I think that thing is so stupid. The spaceship thing, so stupid.
Weapons, crazy
What is
impactful
that?
legendaries,
What
lore
is
that was completely over the top, in addition to still having
So
tier set
silly.
bonuses, the introduction of the Mythic Plus system, and even the widespread love of hard solo content that was the Mage Tower. It was the biggest and
Mage Tower was
brightest
good.
expansion we've had in Modern WoW, and then it all came crashing to a halt in BFA. Artifact weapons were too strong, so they introduced Azerite, which was like a baby version of it. You could still infinitely grind it out, but the bonuses were minor in comparison to what the artifact weapon provided, and
I
simply
hated
just
this.
allowed you to use your gear,
I
rather than
hated
providing a whole bunch
this.
of neat extra benefits. The lore was a lot more small scale too. We went from hanging out with some of the most important people in Warcraft history, to hanging out with some random pirates or trolls that we've never heard of before. There was also no tier set bonuses, no bombastic legendaries. All you were left with was the empty feeling from losing the temporary power-up that was Legion.
I know,
Although,
dude.
they can't really have a Legion-like extravaganza every expansion. Wrath of the Lich King was like the Legion of the Classic era. They finally released the restraints they'd been playing under since Classic and TBC, and just went all out with the classes. The first patch of Wrath of the Lich King was probably the most unbalanced the game has ever been, which is how powerful some classes were, including the new Death Knights, who had abilities like a dot which would passively consume hots while they did damage to their target, an AoE which passively feared you if you tried to get out of it, and of course the ability to come back to life if you actually managed to kill them, on top of their 1 minute cooldown 50% damage reduction, or their 5-second immunity to spells. Healing in Wrath of the Lich King was so over the top that they still use it as a benchmark of what they don't want healers to be able to do in the modern era, where the best way to heal was to literally spam your highest mana using abilities non-stop, because your mana was essentially infinite, and mechanics were designed around you having an infinite amount of mana. That's why in Cataclysm, when they gutted all of the Wrath over the topness, it wasn't very well received as the previous expansion, because they went a little bit too hard in the other direction. Mists of Pandaria was them going back to that. Mists is when pretty much every class could do everything. It was the culmination of classes getting new abilities with every expansion for 5 expansions, without them ever removing abilities from the previous expansions. There were so many new abilities that classes had that just accumulated over time, that everyone could do pretty much everything. Every class had some kind of major DPS cooldown.
Yeah, I think they effed up. Classes like mages, they're like or they should be glass cannons, right? But like mana used to matter for them. Mana doesn't even matter, dude. I think classes that have an insane amount of CC and can have high potential bursts, they should and get punished, right? Even for red, like I should too. I like when classes I think it makes sense. In TBC, like rogues, they don't really bring a lot of damage, but they bring a lot of CC, right? But in retail, they give rogues like super damage, super burst too. So now the class has like infinite CC and omega burst. I know it's a long CD, but still really strong burst. They just give every class everything. I think that was the mistake.
Some kind of form of crowd control, some gap closers, some snare, a raid cooldown, and if
I think gap closers make sense. I think every class should have equalized gap closers. That one I will stand by. Gap closers, yes. Every good game, unless the class has a bunch of slows, every class should have decent gap closers. But about the burst potential and the CC potential, every class shouldn't have that, in my opinion.
by chance you were missing something, a druid could just symbiosis you to gain whatever you might be lacking, as the tables for what symbiosis could do was more in-depth and probably designed than the entire conduit system. Mists of Pandaria wasn't very well liked at the time, but it is definitely another over-the-top expansion when it comes to player power, which is why they had to remove so much of it in Warlords of Draenor. So World of Warcraft kind of has a system where they go all out with one expansion and then completely reel it back in with the very next expansion for the long-term health of the game. If they never had the ability pruning in WoD and just kept adding new baseline abilities with every new expansion, then every class would be completely homogenized by now. You could basically play whatever you wanted and be good at everything. Now, that style of gameplay definitely has its own appeal, but it does make things kind of hard to balance when every class has 100 different abilities. So, after having a bombastic expansion in Legion, they then reined things in hard with BFA. It seems like they were ready to have another overpowered expansion afterwards. Since here's how it seems like it was going. Wrath was the overpowered expansion to culminate early Classic WoW, to then have the cooldown in Cataclysm, with it ramping back up again in Mist of Pandaria, then a cooldown in Warlords of Draenor, and then going full throttle in Legion. So going by that pattern, Shadowlands
big dick in Legion, dude.
Should have been the...
You know why Legion was so popular though? Like even PvP seasons were so short. It was like maybe 3 months each. I don't know, there was just content left and right, and it was actually fun content. I enjoyed it, genuinely enjoyed it. I think Legion was one of like my best friend's favorite expansions too.
The bombastic new expansion, going all out.
The freaking Shadowland, like 9-month arena season, that's way too long, man. Way too long.
Except, they didn't really go far enough. Shadowlands definitely tried to go for big lore moments, but they definitely did not attempt to go for big player power moments. And even the lore isn't as grand as it was in Wrath of Lich King, Mist of Pandaria, or Legion. Wrath of Lich King is probably #1 favorite when it comes to players' final boss. Mist of Pandaria added so much lore to the game, it's probably the most influential lore expansion ever added. As well as, we still deal with things that happened in Mist of Pandaria in the modern era. And Legion, of course, had us fighting the Legion and Titans with planet-destroying weapons and spaceships. BFA was a nice breather of an expansion. Shadowlands should have been even crazier than Legion, with everyone going to the afterlife. Instead, it's a lot more tame, and they're trying to play things a little bit too safe. Although
they're playing it way too slow. I wanted to know about like Uther, I wanted to know about Arthas, I wanted to know about Thrall and his mom. Take way too freaking long, man. They milked it way too hard because they were busy abusing the employees and they were sweating their ass off when the police came in for inspection. That's why they couldn't work, man. And the content was so delayed. I know there was COVID, but I swear one big part of it is like their working area sucked cock, man. I think if WoW wants to succeed, I don't think an expansion will save them. They will need to do a new WoW, like WoW 2. I think that's it, chat.
It's still only the first half of the expansion, so who knows, it could go off the rails later, probably not though. But that does allow us to go straight back into the original point of the video. Why was Legion the best expansion of modern WoW? Because it was the last expansion where players got to be overpowered, and the lore was completely off the rails. The next 2 expansions afterwards were too balanced and too on the rails, even though current WoW is literally in the afterlife. However,
I was so interested in this story, but it's just so slow, dude.
Because they've had 2 expansions in a row where players were kind of on the rails, that leads them to easily allowing another Legion-like expansion afterwards. Although we really should have been in it right now with Shadowlands.
I'll be honest, at the first time when Shadowland came out, I enjoyed it somewhat. But the content drought was a huge turnoff. This is why I like Legion, like short, fun seasons, new things to grind for every time, right? And new titles to grind for. But Shadowland season was way too long. And then when they finally came out, they threw 40 renown in our face, bunch of Torghast in our face. If they gave us like 2 renown per week, I think that would have been better than them saving up a bunch and like poof at us, right? And no one wants to do that anymore. That sucks. You know, there's a clip of me and Ambani starting our first arena season in Shadowland, and we were like, man, we like Shadowland so much. But then Ambani and that clip was like, Savix, in a few months, we're gonna hate this game, watch. And look what happened. I want to find that actually. Can I find that, chat? Can I find that? I think I can. Maybe I try, chat. Okay, the video's called 2 years from now.
2 years from now, we're gonna say, I fucking hate you.
It's because, okay, this is a new season. We're having so much fun. Did Bonnie call it? Bonnie's a fortune teller, man. But then it works for Blizzard. I swear that's what they do, chat. Like, they give us this long content drought because they know WoW players are so loyal and PPC and they come back to play the game. So they're like, we're going to give them nothing for like 9 months because they're going to come back anyway, and they drop that. We come back, It sucks, we leave. But then now they're just gonna cap on the next expansion. It's a money grabber, 40 bucks, and then 15 bucks a month. And then we play it, it sucks, we all leave, but they're like, they're gonna come back anyway. This is why I don't want that. Like when Lost Ark comes out, I'm gonna play Lost Ark. And I'm not gonna play Wrath of the Lich King when it comes out, because literally money grabber. And I don't want to do that anymore. I've already played Wrath, I've already played BC, I've already played Classic back when I was little. I don't want to redo the whole thing again, man. Not again. BC is the last one because I am a guild leader and I want to lead my guild to victory. But that could change too. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna play WoW 2 though. I will try WoW definitely. WoW 2 I will try.